Five.
My phone's off. Let's rock and roll.
Good morning, everybody. We'll call the Wright County Board Commissioners meeting to order. It is March 2nd. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do the 4-H pledge after that.
All right, the minutes from February 23rd.
Mr. Chair, I will move the minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions? Any changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to get added to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark?
yeah, I'd like to pull item B as in boy 5 for a little discussion, and letter H, number 1, for a little clarification, please.
Mr. Chair, we had a motion on the floor.
Yeah, there wasn't a second. Do you want to modify your motion?
I guess, for short, before we open the discussion on it, I guess I'd be interested in understanding the depths of it and whether the departments have been contacted prior to opening the discussion on it.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Well, I'd just like to clarify something on the business relief fund and how it was dealt with on the consultant level from last summer when it first came up as an issue. And if there was a consultant involved with the process of how the money was going to be handed out. Because I know there was discussion about that, but that was last summer before I was elected, and I was just wondering if that happened, if there was somebody involved. Because I see there was an extra $1 million here left, and it was determined how that was going to be dispersed, I saw in the report. So I was wondering if that was part of the process here.
Mr. Chair, I will allow to open up the questions on that because there's a quick clarification on that because I think he's mistaking the current round of business relief grants and that of the CARES funds. There are two totally separate pots of money, and there was a contractor that we used for.
Okay.
I can get into it. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to,
I'll amend to pull off item B5. I guess I'd like to know what the item before I would open up item H. I guess I'd be curious if it's a backfill item and if he has discussed it all with the sheriff prior to pulling it.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ketch-
So is the answer, there was no consultant with the second round of relief. That was our internal board that decided on how that money was going out. Correct?
Yeah, we'll discuss it in detail after we approve the consent agenda. Right now, before I was going to amend my motion, I wanted to have a detail of the scope that you're looking at on it, and whether you...
For the item H.
For item, yep, so B5, I will amend my motion to approve the consent agenda with removing B5 for discussion to inform Commissioner Ketchmark and answer his questions.
Okay.
Item H, I guess, it's a backfill position, and if you've talked with the sheriff on it, I'm open to discuss it deeper, but if you haven't discussed it with the sheriff, I'm not open to that discussion.
Well, I guess I'd recall what Mr. Chair brought up at a recent meeting to Mr. Kelly, where he said we were looking for more information on these proposals, and if there was none, we would reject it. And I'm looking at this one, I'm looking for clarification on what exactly we're giving consent to and what's being moved to the Personnel Committee by just the mere wording here. If we could have the Chief Deputy is here to answer a question, just to clarify what this backfill position is, because it states that they're requesting a full-time deputy to replace a captain. And I guess I have a question about what we're exactly giving consent here and moving along to the Personnel Committee, if I'm able to ask that question of the Chief Deputy that's here.
Mr. Chair, I just because I want to save you a little bit of correction here, it's not going to the Personnel Committee. It's literally because when a captain retires, a lieutenant becomes a captain, a sergeant becomes a lieutenant, and then there leaves a deputy position on the bottom end open. So now now there's one patrol deputy open because other people were promoted up, and we need to fill that patrol deputy spot. This is a budgetary item. It doesn't go to Personnel Committee. It's literally backfilling a position that was open because of a retirement.
Okay, and that's part of my question, is this is asking for a full-time
Okay.
deputy
all right.
to replace.
Enough. We were going to table item H until the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff.
Chris?
Yeah, I don't really need to say, probably comment, but in the past, all positions were brought to the personnel, and it's like, no, this is already an approved position, so we just need to know that that's what's happening. So that's
Okay,
fine.
so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Item B5 will be pulled. Item H will be tabled until the next board meeting. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark, regarding item B5.
Yes, well, and
I can
Commissioner
happily
Betts,
explain it.
pardon me?
I can happily explain the differences of them.
Sure, that's fine. I read it over, and what I thought we had decided at a previous meeting about the extras is that we were gonna figure out first how much there was, and then we were gonna come together for a board discussion, I thought, about the process of it being dispersed from there. And I saw in this report, it looks like the $1 million that was extra did get doled out, and so that's kind of another part of it is, I thought maybe I misunderstood Commissioner Vetch, but I thought it was gonna come back here with a total, and then we were going to decide where it was gonna go from there, but I did read the footnotes in the report also. But that's what I was just trying to clarify from a past meeting.
So it was a rolling disbursement, because there was a lot of processes that they had to do on the backside to receive the funds, and we didn't want to wait till the very end and just disperse it all at once, because we had to play a lot of cat and mouse games to getting people to turn in the proper documents, and if we waited to do it all at the end, we'd potentially run into our March deadline of having the money out. So that's the reason that was done in that manner. But all the funds are for the most part, dispersed at this point. The difference when you're talking about the contractor, the CARES Act that we had back in the September, October, that was kind of given to us actually midsummer last year. We did contract.
And that was federal money.
That was federal money, and
This money is
because
state.
this was state, and we basically contracted with Clifton Larson Allen to help give us kind of some parameters of what we could and couldn't do, because there was a lot of rules tied to the CARES funds. And that one we had some disbursements to the schools and to businesses and for internal expenses and such. Now, this more recent one was the $2.6 million that we got from the state, and that's the funds that we're currently rolling out, which didn't have quite as many rules to it, so we were able to work with just the MMB directly and with other counties, and we were able to do it without hiring a contractor for the disbursements of those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Houston?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, and just my recollection of that discussion was that because they were waiting for all this information to come in, that I recall saying that I'm comfortable with the committee making those decisions because, you're well qualified, everything's well vetted, so, the final amounts, that's my recollection from last discussion.
Yeah, and I thought we had discussed it at one of our workshops
The workshop.
about what it was.
Yep.
And the time frame, the time crunch that we were
Right,
under.
that's it, just it. Because of that, to get us all back together again just wasn't practical, but it's a lot to keep up with for sure. So it's a good question, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. You comfortable with that, Commissioner?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank
Can
you.
I have a motion then, please?
I make a motion to accept letter B5 under finance.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Well, we're a little bit behind. I hope we're not keeping her from her work.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm pleased this morning to introduce to you Elizabeth Carls, our new project administrator. Elizabeth has been with the county now for a week. She started on Monday, February 22nd. She joins us from Hennepin County, where she managed a variety of projects and programs for the Facility Services Department. Prior to that, she was a project engineer for Xcel Energy, where she managed capital projects at power plants in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Elizabeth has a bachelor's in civil engineering and a technical communications certificate from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a master of project management from Keller Graduate School. Most recently, she received a business process improvement certificate from the University of Minnesota. So we are very happy to welcome her to our team, and I'll let her talk too.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm really happy to be here. It's been a long time waiting. I had to give 28 days notice at my last position, so I'm really anxious to be here.
Well, there's one thing for sure. You're finally at the right county.
And she lives
And
in
I
Wright.
live
I was gonna
And
here.
you live in the right county.
I was gonna say, I recognize the name as a Wright County name, but
A distant relation, actually, just kind of coincidental. So I'm not one of the really Howard Lake cousins, but I think they're a long distant cousin of some sort.
oh, okay.
I live just outside of Buffalo in Rockford Township,
You live, okay, yeah.
so it's nice.
So
Yep.
where'd you grow up at?
I grew up outside of Chicago, so I'm not originally from here.
Okay.
Yeah, then it wouldn't be the local name.
No, well, it might be the local name, but maybe not be.
It's my husband's
Yeah.
family.
So I hope you're excited at the diverse work scope that your job entails. Quite a lot of different things. You get a lot of variety in the work that you'll be able to do here for us. We're excited
Yeah.
to have you on board.
We're really, very happy. Very happy to welcome you.
Thank you, I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Very qualified, so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right.
All right, item B, Mr. Hawkins, Highway Department. You with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me, or do I need to use my outside voice?
No, we can hear you this morning.
All right, good. I got a new headset. That's good to hear. So today, there's just one item to consider, and it's to approve the minutes of our Transportation Committee meeting. And I'll briefly go through it, summarize the items. You should have had that in your packet to review. The first item was a County Highway 19 project update. It's in St. Michael. It's in the one-way pair area, and it's to improve safety, roadway geometrics, and reduce capacity, or increase capacity. Chad went through a presentation from the website, and there was discussion about the project. Two major alternatives, a two-signal option and a hybrid roundabout option. And the preferred option right now, with the city's input and staff, is the two-signal option. At the meeting, we did not request any formal action. It was an informational item. And we'll come back to the board at a later time for an official action on this, because there's still environmental documentation required by the feds that both options have to be carried through. So that was item 1. Item 2 was our County Highway 118 reconstruction project that we're planning to rebuild this year with local option sales tax revenue. We went through a brief summary of the project. We're finishing right-of-way acquisition. Design has just been finished recently, and we are going to be putting it out for bids and receive bids in April. Chad went through at the meeting the website and some of the design options along the corridor, and there was discussion. There was really no action needed. It was an informational item. The third topic was the local option sales tax. We gave the committee an update, and then for moving forward, we wanted to know what we should be doing, because the current sales tax was adopted in 2017, and it expires the end of December in 2022. And it's important for us to do our proper planning and get projects prepared to deliver in the appropriate years to know if this funding is going to continue. So we did go through some update on the projects that have been completed and the ones that are in our 5-year plan right now. And also we put together a new project list of projects that if the tax is to continue and move forward, projects that we would want to complete using the revenue in the future. And we distributed that map for the committee. There was discussion.
We lost you, Virgil. We can't hear you.
How's that?
There.
There you go.
Sorry about that. As a staff recommendation, we'd like to see the program extended so we can deliver these important projects that are needed. There would need to be a public hearing with a new list of projects presented if the board would like to extend the tax beyond 2022. There was a consensus at the meeting to have 2 meetings, and I just want to get clarification from the board on this so we know how we should be proceeding. What we understood was there should be a virtual open house first, and we'd prepare something on our website that we'd send out to people that they could access for about 3 weeks or a month. And just want to clarify what's intended there, if we would just want to show the new list of projects and a list of those with the map and just get people's input on that, or if there's anything more than that for the open house part of it.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Vetch.
Virgil, I think my take of the discussion was that there would be a virtual open house for the public comment on the list of projects, but we would do a in-person public hearing for the renewal of the sales tax itself.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to verify for the open house what we wanted to present, and what we'd like to do is a staff internally, we'll put together a presentation for the virtual open house, and we'd like to come to the board's workshop in April and show you that, get your input, have you tweak it if needed, and then after that we would publish it for 3 weeks or a month or whatever's appropriate, get comments, and then later in the year have a public hearing that's required.
Commissioner Hewson?
Yeah, that was my understanding also, that we'd be, having the virtual one to kind of gather, let people know upcoming projects and get any input, but the public hearing would be in person.
And Mr. Chair, Virgil, I guess my understanding was that within the shorter term, within the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days, that we'd be holding the public hearing first for renewing the sales tax before opening up the virtual public hearing for the list of projects. because we wouldn't want to have the virtual public hearing for the list of projects if the actual sales tax didn't go forward. So really, I think we should be within the next 30 to 120 days having a in-person public hearing for the renewal of the sales tax. And if that does go forward, then we would open up a virtual public hearing for comments on the list of potential projects. That would take place sometime June or later.
Oh, okay, that's different. That's good to know because we didn't understand it that way. We thought we would present the proposed recommended list of priority projects with the map, get public feedback, and bring it to the board, probably in a transportation committee meeting, and then after that, have the public hearing, because at the public hearing, you have to have the list of projects in place, and that has to be part of the public hearing testimony to later pass a resolution for the tax.
I mean,
That is the
Yeah,
way
but,
it is.
that's true, that's. part
Mr.
of it.
Chair, we have a list of projects already that we can add to that list at a later date. And I guess I wouldn't want to go to the work of creating a lengthy conversation if the sales tax doesn't go forward. So I mean, I think using your because we already know what the projects are for the next 2 years from now anyways. Those ones haven't changed. It's just we're adding ones for years 5, 6, 7, 8 further down the road. So I guess in the short term, I would use the current list to hold that public hearing for the renewal aspect of it. And then if it moves forward, then we can always amend it 12 months from now with adding on new projects. Because you already know what you're using next year. I think we got to get through one thing first to make sure that the sales tax is even going to be there before we go to all this work of
Well,
soliciting
the
comments.
sales tax expires in 2022.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where we want to renew that
The
first.
the end of 2022, correct, Virgil?
Correct, December 31st, 2022. And we already have projects, if it gets extended, we have projects in the queue that we're working on already that would be built through that time period, actually through 2025. So we do need it extended to deliver the projects in our 5-year plan.
I don't know, I guess what I would like to see is at least get the list out there for the 5-year plan for public comment just on those roads, or if they have other ones that are out there that other people suggest. And then as far as public hearings, I'm wondering if we shouldn't have a couple of them, one in a couple of different areas of the county, make it a little bit more easier, something different.
Well,
Yeah, we could certainly do whatever the board would like.
I'm open to that. If you want to do, we could do 2 or 3 total on the.
Maybe we could do one here, and we could do one on either end of the county or something.
Then, Mr. Chair, I would almost say that I would forgo the work of the virtual open house and just do the projects and the renewal of sales tax all in one in 3 open houses one would be held in the southern part of the county, one of them would maybe be up in the St. Michael, Otsego area, and then we would do one here in Buffalo, and that would kind of encompass the county. They'd all be the traditional in-person open houses. If we wait and do it, say, in May, vaccination is going to be at the general public, almost at the general public level at that point, so we shouldn't have issues in terms of, I mean, just the thoughts of it. I mean,
yeah, Mr. Chair.
We should
So
do some.
the projects that are already on the list have been approved through the public hearing process already. So, if we were just gonna stick with those, then we wouldn't need another public hearing for those projects. But looking forward to the 5-year plan, that's why we need the public hearing, because they have to be approved, and on the list before they can do any of those projects or use any of the lost funds for those projects. So that's what, I think that's a good idea if you want to have, the in-person meetings, or, you could do virtual in one public hearing, but it's nice to get into the other parts of the county too.
Yeah, and I did speak to the Minnesota Department of Revenue last Friday, and they're following any public hearings. There would just need to be one resolution passed amending the time frame. It would have to show the list of projects that would be included, and then there would have to say either if there's going to be a time frame limit to amend the previous tax, or just like a lot of counties do, just it would end when the projects are completed. But that would be up to the board, and then that resolution would be sent to the Minnesota Department of Revenue, and then we'd be good.
Okay, you do have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, if I remember correctly.
Well, right now, we just have our 5-year plan was just approved December of 2020, so that's current. And then we have our long-range transportation plan, which gives us general guidance for the next 20 years. So we don't have a 10-year plan, but we do kind of know priority-wise what we're going to be working on internally.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do, you have new projects, but Virgil, are any of these new projects that we're going to be adding onto this list going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years?
No.
Then I would say them using the current plan, because we're probably going to amend it anyways in 12 or 24 months because there's something that we didn't foresee anyways. So maybe having the public hearing on the sales tax based on the current projects and get the sales tax, find out whether it's going forward or not, get that done with, and then at that point in 12 months from now, we can hold a public hearing on the project list and amend the project list at that time.
Yeah, we could do that.
We just have to have the list in order to provide the resolution, correct?
Yes, the list has to be, the list of projects that we're going to be working on that the tax goes towards has to be included in the resolution.
And we do have time. I mean, it doesn't expire till December of 22, so, and we definitely want to do it ahead of time because we don't want an issue with the Department of Revenue. But we can wait until the summer or next September, October too, when we know that life will come around to a new normal, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe.
Whatever that is.
And I guess that's where I would say that you're probably even better waiting out till, like you say, somewhere between July and October and doing it. And then I'd still say that let's use the current list to get to at least have the discussion on the sales tax, whether it moves forward or not, because I don't want to spend a lot of effort on a new list that if the sales tax didn't go forward, that would be, I mean, I don't know.
But
Maybe,
I'm thinking the new list would help
Yeah.
people understand why we're doing it.
I mean, I guess I'm okay with that too. I mean, do a new list is fine too. I mean,
Yeah.
I just,
Because you have to have the identified projects so you can pass them at the public hearing, approve them at the public hearings.
Yeah, because if they're all down in Commissioner Ketchmark's district, the people in other parts of the county would be upset about it. So I think we do need to have that list to figure out exactly.
okay. And that's fine. I think.
But I think, again, we can wait until summer, October, end of summer, October. I'm not so sure July, August would be a good time to do it.
No.
September, October would probably be best.
And Mr. Chair, you're thinking about doing it then, just the whole thing in traditional public hearing style, not?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking, we can get the list out there ahead of time so people can look at it and review it and then come in to have the normal public hearings.
And that was the reason more the fact that I didn't want us to spend a great deal of effort creating this virtual public hearing on a new list of projects. But if we're gonna do a traditional style, it's not quite as much work put into it, so I'm okay with that, so.
But again, they should still see the list ahead
Oh,
of time.
absolutely. We'll do the, market it like we typically do as far as getting it out from press releases.
Administrator Kelly, you look like you have a question, or have
Well,
we
just trying to
confused
follow
you?
discussion to make sure as staff we carry out what the board's direction is here. So I'm hearing that the plan is to do a single public hearing late summer, October, with both the current list of plans and then potential list going forward to be included in that as one meeting. Did I capture all that right?
Well, I thought we were still gonna have a couple of open houses.
That's what I have understood.
We're gonna have a couple open houses, one in the south part of the county along 12 somewhere,
Okay, and then for clarification, open houses, not public hearings held at
Well,
each of those
I
jurisdictions?
guess, yeah, I mean, you really can't have that many public hearings, but we can definitely have an open house for discussions.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
From what I was hearing, it sounded like open house would fit what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
Public hearing becomes a more formal process, so.
yeah, you're right about that, yeah.
So certainly we can gather the input that's provided at those open houses and bring that forward when we do have a public hearing here.
Yeah, and again, we've got time, so I would rather wait till this fall to do it. And that gives a chance for everybody to get their info out. And again, if we have a list that's out there ahead of time, people can provide comments on what they think of those spots or if there's something we're missing.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And a question for Virgil. With this time frame that we're kicking around, would it be better to have this earlier than later for proposed projects and your scheduling if it does go through, or isn't that a big difference if it winds up in September, October?
Yeah, I think that fall timeframe works for us. I think it sounds like, as a staff, we'll just continue with going ahead and preparing these projects like they're going to happen. We do have some time. The revenue will be collected through the end of 2022. And knowing what I found out Friday talking to the Department of Revenue, we could have these open houses, 2 or 3 of them, get a lot of input, and then just anytime before the end of 22, we could have a public hearing and just have a resolution that amends the current local option sales tax resolution with a new list. And we wouldn't have to go through all the notice and things because the tax is still in place at that time, as long as we have the new hearing and a new resolution amending it before it expires. So that would work.
Thank you.
Right?
All right, that works for me.
All right, Virgil. Next item?
Okay, thank you. The last item we had at the transportation meeting was just a quick update on MnDOT's Northwest Metro Mississippi River Crossing Feasibility Study. I'm serving on the Technical Advisory Committee, and Commissioner Vetch is serving on the Policy Advisory Committee. There's just been a couple meetings so far. It's kind of in the early stages, but it's basically looking at the Northwest Metro area between Otsego and Brooklyn Park for studies that have been done in the past and a potential new river crossing in that area. And there was no action item on that. That was just an informational item.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, Virgil?
if there's any revisions needed for the minutes, let me know.
Mr. Chair, I have one. At the beginning, it says Houston started with introductions, and it actually would be Delegating.
Oh, okay.
You sure you just weren't trying to hone in on my...
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Transportation Committee of the Whole minutes with the so mentioned recommendations and the amendment by Commissioner Husum. So,
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Husum. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Virgil.
Okay, thank you.
Have we confused you yet?
I'm going to check with Lee later just to make sure, but I think I got it.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
got it.
Thank you.
We like to talk in circles just to see how well the administrator is really paying attention.
Try and keep up.
Oh, Dr. Matthijs. And again, a doctor is just an honorary entitlement to him. He's not really a doctor.
No, but I think you had one pretty close up here before, somebody with a pretty hard degree.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've been threatened by somebody in the back of the room to make it click. But I'll keep that in case something goes wrong. A couple orders of business today. I'm requesting authorization on signatures on a contract with Hkgi for the creation of the Wright County Parks and Recreation Comprehensive System Master Plan. This item was part of our budget and professional services here, $45,000. And then we also got a grant from the statewide health improvement program for 27, for a total of 72. to do this plan. Been here 23 years. Every 5 years, we look at our strategic plan, make that strategic plan dynamic. That flows into our capital improvement plan, flows into a lot of decision-making processes for the County Parks Commission, as well as you as the county board. After that many years, a lot of questions of where's our system going, what's our system doing. This is going to give us a lot of good input from the citizens, great planning opportunity. It'll be the first time we've done a system-wide plan for the county. We developed a request for proposals starting last fall with review by the Park Commission. After we published that in January, we received proposals. We set up a subcommittee of the Park Commission, which included myself, Brad Harrington, the Park Commission Sarah Hansen, and Commissioner Dalal Leiden as the county liaison commissioner on the Park Commission. Great review, checking references and stuff like that. Hkgi is a very reputable firm. They're a planning firm. They're not an engineering firm. They're not here to sell us that we need to pave a road in the park or build a new building. They're here to get us citizen input, put that document together. My thought is $45,000 of the county taxpayers' money will be more than doubled if we can follow and implement that plan through grant sources and other funding opportunities. It's going to give us a great benchmark and a great vision for the future because we're going to be looking 25 to 30 years out, tying this into the strategic plan that the county commissioners did last year with Infotech. Not looking at me, so I'm not sure if I got that right, but I did. So, good.
Mr. Chair?
And the contract's in front of you for authorization of signatures, which would be myself, I believe, and Lee.
Commissioner Vetch?
So, Mr. Mattice, it's safe to say that the previous master plans that we've done every 5 years have yielded us, are largely contributed to the ability of us to collect millions of dollars in grant funds. So what looks like a large amount of money at the $45,000 to do this planning, it has yielded us in the 7 figures plus over the last, definitely in the 7 figures over the last 5 years. So I just wanted the face value may seem high on it, but what we yield for funds from other entities for grants it's far worth the investment.
Well, I like this program with getting more public input. You know, what do they want to see at the parks? Do they want to see more programs? Do they want to see more slides, bigger slides? Water parks? I hope not.
Don't even mention it.
But it'll get, assuming that life kind of gets back to normal and some of the community events, they'll be able to gather even better input and stuff too over the summer and fall. So hopefully that we'll get a great lot more input from the residents on what they want in their parks. It's their parks.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Vetch, we'll be able to take this master planning for the system, be able to break that down into strategic 5-year plans, short-range plans, and give us a long-range vision for where we're headed.
And then it'll help with grant funding and stuff too.
Well, yeah, that stuff too.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
thank you for coming in, Mr. Mattice, and going over the review. I took the time and read the 29-page outline and overview that the plan included from the company, and actually called 3 of the references, and they had no complaints and said the company did a good job. And I also trust that we have a good experienced parks staff and department, and nobody knows our parks better than our staff, including you and others that have been on a long time. And as I read through the proposal of what they do, it was often mentioned that they would work with public input and staffing, which would be you and our citizens. And I don't hear complaints from citizens about the condition of our parks, or that they wish that we had this or had that. I don't hear that. But what I do hear complaints about at the county level and spending is the spending on consultants and studies. That's what I hear about. And this is $73,000, and you can use the word grant, but it's still somebody's money besides taxpayer money. And I guess I like to trust the our own in-house expertise when we have it to spend on these kinds of projects. And as I look at the time frame here, the deadline for this proposal is December 31st of '21. So that wouldn't be budgeted, their changes for 2022. We'd be looking at 2023 by my math. And by subscribing and accepting this, we to a point are saying that we're going to go along with at least some of the recommendations, which could include staffing increases and whatever. I mean, we're kind of buying into them being a credible company. So at this time, I don't think it's the best time to be spending $73,000 on another consultant and a study, and I'd be ready to make a motion.
Well, go ahead and make the motion.
I'll make a motion that we decline to accept the contract from Hkgi for the Park and Recreation System Master Plan.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ketchmark. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Does anybody else have any questions regarding, with Mr. Mattice regarding the Parks and Rec? Commissioner Houston.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, all the years that we've worked with Mark, and it's been 8, and he's been so, done such good homework about, getting information and really building our park system. They're very well utilized, and sometimes you look at, okay, is this necessary? But it really is necessary for a lot of people, because if you're living in apartments or whatever, you need a place to go out and recreate. And he's kept his staffing levels, I think, very low for all the work that they do. And certainly we get revenues too from these parks, and our campgrounds are always full. I mean, they're booked, except last year was a little different, but so I trust Mark with these recommendations, and I know it does cost money, but we also, our people are really benefiting from this. And you're right, grants are, somebody pays from somewhere, but a lot of grants actually are privately funded too. So I mean, reading through the proposal, I trust Mark on this.
Mr. Chair? So,
Commissioner Vetch.
speaking of timing, I know he's saying with COVID and the cost may or may not be a good time and sensitive, but we are at an all-time utilization high for Wright County parks. Because of COVID, actually, our parks had seen more use than they've ever seen, which is more to the point of doing such a comp plan look at this time, because there's more people interested in our parks. Now, when you speak about it from a grant perspective, a lot of these are legacy grants, which are lottery funds. So it's a tax that people choose to pay or not pay. And that's where most of those tax funds go for it. Now, if you argue the fact that, well, it's still a tax, but if we don't go after those lottery funds, because that's what I'm going to call them, because that's what they are, some other county's going to go after them. So I feel like if it's going to go somewhere, we might as well at least put our hat in the ring to go for it. So from that aspect of it, I agree there is some individual local investment as well, but when your utilization is as high as it is right now, now's the time to engage the people to give us the best chance to get those lottery funds to improve our parks and keep them at a high utilization level.
And who knows, it may be that people like the parks the way they are and they really don't have much interest in changing them.
And Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I think because of COVID, that's when people really started coming out and they discovered the park. So a lot of them didn't even know, some of these hidden gems that we have here in Wright County. So that's the other thing. Now there's greater utilization, I think, that will continue.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize the contract with Hkgi in the creation of a Wright County Parks Recreational Comprehensive Master Plan.
I have a motion. Do I have
With that.
motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2.
Item number 2 is to accept a low bid from Knife River related to the paving project at Collinwood Regional Park and authorize the Director of Parks and Recreation to sign and develop all necessary contracts to complete the project. The Collinwood Regional Park project, as you know, was a long project due to weather. The expansion of 15 units, a new comfort station. Yeah, it was a project from hell. With the weather and the soil down there. We did wrap that up for the most part, except for the paving part. And we're able to open that in September. Had good utilization, had good comments. Got a lot of bookings yesterday with our kickoff of our campground.
I was going to ask you that. Yesterday was the first day.
Yeah,
Now, in the past, we've exceeded all other counties as far as bookings.
we did well yesterday.
You want to give us an idea what well is?
We did, I believe it was $120,000 in 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, nobody likes our parks.
You know, it's amazing the system didn't crash based on that volume.
And the thing is, it was a brand-new software system that we implemented. Commissioner Delegating has a better memory than me than time frames lately. I think we approved that in October. We told them that we were kicking off in January 1st with shelters and campgrounds in March, and they thought we were nuts at that time frame because it usually takes 6 to 8 months to update their systems. And when we told them what we did we'll do on Monday, they had a support staff behind the scene watching us, and we did not crash. We have a couple things we have in for AHA tickets for them that we noticed throughout the day. One being that when you put stuff in your cart, if Mike puts it in his cart, and Christine puts it in her cart, and Mike pays faster than you, Mike gets the site, and then you get an error code, and the error needs to read one or more items is not available in your cart. It just said error. So that was a lot of phone calls we got. Why am I getting an error? So, for the most part, it went very well. It did not crash, and yeah.
One of the nice things about this software too, compared to our old one, is that on those dates that it's not available, it gives you alternatives.
That is nice.
So
Mr.
it
Chair.
makes it a lot easier for the residents. Yes.
So
So we want to make sure that we also, that people know that we are blocking some out for short-term reservations, that we're like at Bertram, you can still come and look and get one potentially a week out, or what, I don't know what the frame is on our short-term reservations.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wright, we actually didn't open Bertram up on Monday.
Okay.
Because we have to wait for turf establishment, see where that goes. We're hoping to be able to open that one up on reservations in mid-June with a right after 4th of July open date. See how turf establishes. We don't want to ruin that and have a mud pit for the next 20 years. So that's a good thing. County policy before COVID that 20% of our sites would be open to first come, first served day drive-in type stuff. With COVID last year, we changed that policy due to COVID restrictions and outdoor recreation guidelines, so we're still following that. So this year, again, all our sites will be reservable because of outdoor recreation guidelines. If those loosen up, we will change with them guidelines.
So how far did so we didn't hold any back at all then?
We're not able to hold any back this year because of outdoor recreation guidelines and the COVID. And,
Yeah.
yeah, anyhow.
Yeah.
But in the past,
And we
we've
do
always,
have-
Well, we've always
We
kept
do
that.
have to have 10 sites closed at Schroeder Park due to spacing guidelines and 7 sites at Collinwood. So
Hopefully with new guidance, when we open up Bertram, we'll be able to keep some of them.
at Bertram, we will not have to close any sites. We have great spacing at Bertram Park. So when we open that up, we'll be fine.
so pray for
And
good
if
weather.
If things loosen up, we'll be able to put them other 17 sites online immediately. Get reservations for them too.
Cool.
So if you look at last year, March 1st, just first Monday in March, we didn't have COVID restrictions, so all our sites were available. This year, we're missing 17 sites, and we have a higher revenue, so we did pretty good. Something did right. I think it was Mr. Ketchmark's marketing.
So, with those 17 sites too, we could leave those as open first come, first serve at the sites themselves.
Yep.
So essentially,
We
we
can-
do
we
have
can be
some open for
flexible.
last minute until, but we just can't utilize them until COVID restrictions are gone, so.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which will be next week, right?
So anyhow, we opened bids.
All right.
County Board took action on February 2nd to publish notice for the bids relating to those paving improvements. Open bids on February 23rd at 1 o'clock. The project's part of the CIP program. Bid results are attached. Knife River came in about $226,000. Our engineer's estimate was $308,000.
Yeah, we got some good numbers.
We got some good numbers.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the Knife River bids relating to the Collinwood Park paving project.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. In the interest of time, our next thing is supposed to be service recognition at 10 a.m. I'd like to skip over so that somebody can get back to work. Since Mark took more of his time and Mr. McMillan wasn't happy.
I love Mr. Matei, so I'm always happy.
Thanks, Beck.
Thank you.
So this is the department budget review?
This is department budget discussion.
Thank you.
Morning, Mike, thank you.
It's in Administration B.
Oh,
I'm jumping ahead.
Under administration.
oh,
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Mike.
Well, it's my understanding you would like a recap of
so it's,
the end of the year of our budget. Is that fair, Commissioner?
Number 4.
Well, I just,
yeah.
if you want a little background, we talked on the phone, but we had the 132-page budget come through in January. We had a couple days to go through it. We brought those items to the meeting with some questions. It was recommended that rather than having office and department heads come forward and answer the questions, that we had finance folks come in and put on a presentation, which they did, and then questions remained. So it was recommended that the office heads and department heads come forward to answer questions that we may have from the board. So, but you said you had a presentation at the ready, you're conscientious with your budget, and you were just ready to present it. So I guess I'm just willing, I don't know about the rest of the board, just listen to what you have to say and go from there.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the call. That was appreciated. As Mr. Kelly knows and Lindsay Meyer know, that as soon as the end of the year came around, or a little bit before the end of the year, I started getting a little bit jumpy to see, where we were going to fall with COVID and all the other things that, we all had to deal with this year. And so we had started to work on I called it a fiscal note. It's my term, just to kind of give the board and finance and Mr. Kelly an overview of kind of what the snapshot is of what happened this year and why. And it was good for me, and it's good for my management team. And Jesse Miller is here, who runs our finances and our department, our office manager, so she might be able to answer some of your questions as well. I tried to break it down into 2 areas, and as the veteran commissioners know, I tend to start with revenue, not with expenses, and hopefully they all fall together at the end of the year. And that's one of the areas that there was a little bit of an issue, and we kind of predicted that going probably 2 months into COVID. We knew this was going to go longer than we thought. I made some decisions as a department head to hold 2 positions, which you'll notice are reflected in my memo. That one of the things I didn't realize, though, when I held the positions, I thought the finances would stay in the expense line item, but they were removed when the positions were removed after a period of time, which is fine. But I had thought that might be a little bit of a cushion for us at the end of the year, and it wasn't. But I still think, despite that fact, that we did pretty good. So. On the revenue side, just a couple notes. I outlined the line items for you, but you will notice that the federal grant, the projected revenue came in at 0. The reason for that was we started the federal grant process, and Heather's not here, but she was intricately involved with Jesse on that. We started the federal grant application process for drug court. We took over the fiscal agent from the district. And that didn't end up getting done. None of that was a Wright County issue, it was a federal issue. So the amount that we had budgeted in that line item didn't come in as revenue. So that's one of the things that's glaring in the budget. Fees for services and charges were at 86%. You know, we had no in-person contact for months at a time. You know, and people were going through economic crisis. Some of those people are on our caseload. So, you know, we worked with them like anybody would. So our revenues were a little bit down in that area as well. One of those areas was also chemical dependency. That's a revenue line item. We get money from offenders for doing chemical dependency assessments. So you'll see that's dropped. So you'll see those, and there's a couple more in there, but they're all related to, you know, COVID, supervision of offenders in a different world in their economics. And, but I think despite that fact, we did pretty good on revenue collection, my agents did. Expenses, I think, are pretty clear. You know, I thought there was going to be a savings on personnel. I still think there is, but it's not reflected in the budget of about $150,000, which I thought was going to be sitting there. And me and Mr. Kelly had a long talk about that, and so did me and Lindsay. And I don't know if Lee wants to speak to it or not, but moving forward, I know that will be a topic of discussion as we go into this budget year for those positions that are held. I do think that money, though, and Commissioner Vetch is looking at me, I'm guessing that money shifted back into the general fund, and I think that was a decision that was made a couple years ago. I just wasn't aware of it.
That's because of our budget amendments, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because it basically, yeah.
And I thought it was an end of the year thing,
Which-
so I thought it was sitting there, that's all.
Because of the way how we basically are taking turn back dollars and turning them into debt service funds.
Well,
But,
yeah.
I mean, I think, but then also, that could be done at the end of the year too. That's kind of, we think we have to talk about methodology wise, because
It is.
what it does in the short term is it makes your individual budget not accurate.
Right, right.
Yep.
And that's how I was looking at it, and I was thinking in my brain, we knew there was going to be shortfalls in revenue, right? I mean, it was pretty obvious. So I thought that was sitting there. And then the copy thing, there was a misunderstanding on a line item, not ours. And then professional services was over. The reason professional services was over, because one of the mechanisms that we went to for supervision was more electronic monitoring, ignition interlock, some different ways to supervise without being face-to-face with clients. So that one was up a little bit. And then we'll probably receive revenues on those, a lot of those cases in 2021, but you know, offenders don't always pay immediately. And then we also use revenue recapture to get some of those funds back for the county. Software costs, something that is dictated not by our department, was up a little bit. Our vehicle purchase went over about $5,000. And then COVID expenses was about $12,000. And again, that money does not come back into our revenue side. That goes to you. So again, that would, in my brain, that was being reflected in our revenues. Of course, towards the end of the year, when everybody figured, you know, the whole COVID dollars out, we realized that wasn't coming into our budget. So I just wanted to make sure I noted that. So some of those expenses are tied to revenues. And so I think you'll see that 3% over or whatever it was is fairly explainable and somewhat out of our control, but I think it's good to talk about it. I think it was really important to talk about this before we go into the budget session. And as we get into budget, we'll define some more line items that might pop out as well.
Sure.
Nice recap.
Mike,
Commissioner Beck.
thank you so much for, I mean, because these are things that internally we struggled on where we were going to recognize those COVID funds in the CARES funds, and whether we recognize them in the individual budgets or we recognize them outside of them. And we knew at one point you just had to choose a path and go with it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I know it does make the departments look, I guess, like they're over, but the money, what is there, but it's just being recognized. The CARES funds are reimbursing of those overages, but they're being recognized in a different line.
And that, you know what, as Lee knows, and Lindsay, and Heather, and Ryan, because they're the ones that are going to get the phone calls for me when I start looking at my end of the year budget and start spending on that stuff. They were awesome, explained it, it's fine. And the reason I was doing the fiscal note is I just want to make sure the board at budget time, you know, in a couple of months, had that same information so we're all on the same page going into 2021, 22.
Yeah.
Commissioner, anything that I missed? Any questions?
Well, one thing, and you touched on it, Mr. Chair, if I may, thanks for going over. You did touch on the 134% where it was 34% over.
Yeah.
I did a little checking on it just so that I would have more for reference for you here today, but what I found in 2019 under, let's say, Minnesota Monitoring Incorporated, which must have been a good share of the professional
That's our,
services.
that they provide the electronic monitors, yes.
So in 2019, I didn't find any expense going to them, and in 2020, January, February, I found 1 month, a little over 12,000 was paid to them, and next month was 17,000, and then fast forward to 2021, January, February, I found about 22,000 each month going to Minnesota Monitoring.
Jesse, can we explain that? That's our vendor, so I mean, yeah.
Just wondering about
For years, they were
differences from 0 in 2019 to the 12,000 2020 to almost double the 2021. But we weren't doing any of that in 2019?
Yeah, we were.
Yes, we were. It might be under a different line item. I could look into that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been our vendor for years.
But otherwise, the difference from 2020 to 2021 was more services for more people because you weren't making the in-person visits. So they were
Yeah.
being accountable with
Oh, yeah.
these other instruments.
Mr. Chair, and maybe we should check with Heather, because we did a lot of line switching
I was
in
just
terms of the
gonna-
coding
I
switches
was just
between
gonna say
2019
that,
and
yeah.
2020.
We did.
And so I'm guessing that's probably what it was, because we were trying to
Clean things up.
clean things up, exactly, so.
And start aligning for the new ERP
Piece
system.
of stuff, yep, so.
Thank you. I'm all for cleaning it up and
No, that-
less acronyms and more plain language is
Makes
easier.
it simple.
Thank you.
Lee, anything that you wanted to pipe in? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you really covered it, and I think Commissioner Vetch talked through about with the funds coming in through CARES, how that is reflected in our overall budget. It's important to tell the story that if you pull a department out, you need to have the overall perspective that how this impacted the full county. We chose to leave that in the general fund rather than redistribute back everything through every department. So the bottom number lines up. It's just if you take certain slices, it may not make sense. So it's good to talk through the whole picture.
Commissioner Vetch?
And it made better transparency by allowing us to show the overages in the departments. That's why we chose that methodology, is showing the overages. Instead of reimbursing them, then everybody would look like they were right on budget with COVID had no effect. So if we allowed them to have the overages in the department, then we can actually see which department was more affected or less affected by COVID. And then we just reimburse that with the CARES funds through the general fund later. Just made it better transparency.
Any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jess.
All right, it's 10:02, so now comes a time where we get to honor a lot of people for staying with us here at the county. And we have a couple that have been around a long time. Wonderful people, that they feel that the county is the right place to be.
It's the right county.
Absolutely. Administrator Kelly.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, this is a little different in 2020 into 2021 here, given that it's hard to have a gathering based on the guidance and the social distancing requirements we have. So we kind of switched it up this year. As you recall, we did the Employee of the Year last board meeting and had those via video. We wanted to go over and recognize all of our employee for the years of service at today's meeting. So with that, I get the honor to kick it off with the, we have 2 employees this year with 30 years of service. The first being Judy Alm of the Sheriff's Office, who's not able to join us today. And the second being Patricia Malchek from Health and Human Services. So
Sure. Yeah.
please come up if you would.
Thank you so much.
Say, Lee, can we do something and get bigger mugs? You know, so they don't have to make so many trips to the coffee pot?
1 ounce per year, perhaps?
Yeah, 30 ounce, that'd get to be a good size. We better start out
There's your,
at least 8 ounces instead of 5.
Patricia and Judy, I thank you for your dedication and commitment to Wright County for the many years that you've been here. And 30 years is no small feat, and can't thank you enough.
Yes.
Patricia, you're in public health right now. You've moved into different spots throughout Health and Human Services through the years, haven't you?
Always in public health.
Oh, you have been?
I've
Okay.
worked for all three of the divisions, and I started out as a contracted employee, and I made $4 something. And the mileage reimbursement, 20.5 cents.
Oh,
So there's been a few
yeah.
good changes since then. Anyway, thank you very much, Patty.
Thank you, Patty.
Chris, for our 25 years.
25 years of service. We recognize Darnell Bredhorst from Court Services, Jeffrey Fox, the Sheriff's Office, Virgil Hawkins, Highway, Jason Hermanson, Sheriff's Office, Robert Hevela, Auditor Treasurer, Paula Mackey, Sheriff's Office, Jacqueline O'Dowd, Sheriff's Office, Sidney Poyer, Sheriff's Office, Todd Sandine, Sheriff's Office, William Stevens from Planning and Zoning. Thank you for 25 years of dedicated service.
There's a lot of people from the Sheriff's Department that have been there quite a few years.
Yeah.
Impressive. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're speaking to employee retention, and this is important, private or government businesses, and it's good to see the employees making Wright County a career, and we support and salute those employees. So 20 years, congratulations to Adam Backus, Robert Dubois, Michael Janicula, Tracy Janakula, Molly Kaczynski, Christine Krocklo-Treichler, Elizabeth Liberto, Kent Lepelt, Brian Lutz, Curtis Martinson, Sherry Mulbauer, Kevin Olson, Joan Olson, Lori Powell, Barbara Peterson, Lori Pulvermacher, Julie Zarkey, Kathleen Tenney, Chad Torkelson, Peter Walker, Dolores Westfall, Don Zockman. Thank you.
Mr. Lutz, are you here to pick up yours directly?
I got my cup yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Distributed them all
I
yesterday.
have a funny story. Actually, I love the white cup. You know, they just came out. So I actually bought a white cup from my office manager in advance, and I broke it. So I was glad
Oh,
I
no.
got my replacement yesterday.
Commissioner Vetch.
So honoring a good number of 15-year employees, we honor our Conrad Anderson, Andrea Bixby, Anthony Bovierhouse, Teresa Burkhart, David Carlson, Scott Deckert, Paula Fladung, and we have Melissa Holthouse, Steve Job, Brett LaRose, Patrick Levine, Albert Lutkins, Stacy Morcourt, Christopher Mazer, Jessica Miller, Amy Montage, Joan Opey, Jill Pooler, Diane Rausch, Brian Severson, Lance Stein, Lori Thingvold, Paula Thompson, William Vogel, Amanda Wilson, and John Wolf. Thank you for 15 years.
Commissioner Wetter.
Yes, for 10 years of service to Wright County, we got Julie Benboom, Ryan Cowley, Haley DuBois, Corey Hemming, Kelly Heisted,
I believe.
Alexander Hirman, Vincent Horn, Greg Kreiser, Jody Martin, Nathan Romer, and Matthew Silbernagel. And that's for 10 years. Thank you.
Mr. Administrator.
Okay, I get to close out with our 5-year recognitions. So Ryan Anderley of the Sheriff's Office, Marcus Anderson of the Sheriff's Office, Edward Anderson of Court Services, Alex Anderson from the Sheriff's Office, Kevin Burning, Highway, Rachel Bratz of Health and Human Services, Braden Brokema, Sheriff's Office, Nathaniel Brown, Sheriff's Office, Christy Caribou from the Attorney's Office, James Casari from Highway, Eric Dahlheimer from the Sheriff's Office, Cynthia DuPont, Sheriff's Office, Charles Erickson, Sheriff's Office, Autumn Faust from Health and Human Services, Joseph Foy from the Sheriff's Office, Susan Green, Sheriff's Office, Bradley Harrington from Parks, Austin Henry, Sheriff's Office, Casey Henry from Health and Human Services, Kaylee Henson from Court Services, Ariel Johnson, Health and Human Services, Tiana Kappas, Health and Human Services, Kim Kaiser from Health and Human Services, Aaron Kodesh from Health and Human Services, Blake Lemire from the Sheriff's Office, Katie Loftus from Health and Human Services, Samson Lubbers from Sheriff, Michael Nordquist, Surveyor's Office, Teresa Novacek, Health and Human Services, James Odell, Health and Human Services, Kristen Otto, Health and Human Services, Annalise Rogers from the Attorney's Office, Lindsay Sallow from Auditor Treasurer, Blake Schaff from Health and Human Services, Kristen Schreiber, Health and Human Services, Molly Sherman, Health and Human Services, Christina Tebben, Health and Human Services, Alyssa Tesmer from Health and Human Services, Misty Thibodeau, Health and Human Services, Kaylin Thinnis Jacobson, Health and Human Services, Ellen Schimperly, Health and Human Services, Sean Tisnick from the Sheriff's Office, Deidre Vandergrift, Health and Human Services, Daniel Warren from the Sheriff's Office, Becky Wendler from Court Services, and Lisa Wilson from Health and Human Services, our 5-year recipients.
And I look forward to Lee naming off all those people from the 5-year one in 25 more years on their 30-year anniversary. Anyway, thank you all and employees. I'm glad to have all of you here in the Wright County. Anybody else have anything to add regarding that?
It's always nice to see this many names on the list. We have many dedicated employees, and I'm always impressed when we have so many every year, 30, 25, 20 years. Folks that have been doing the work for the county and the people of the county for so many years. It's really refreshing to see. So we did distribute the mugs and materials to folks in their departments yesterday, other than the one today. So congratulations to everyone.
Again, thank you, everybody. Alrighty, back up to our regular scheduled meeting. I believe Technology Committee. Commissioner Vetch.
All right, last week on Wednesday at 11 o'clock, a good number of individuals logged in online or in person for the IT committee. We discussed a variety of different items. We start off as traditionally with the project updates. We discussed the Office 365 project, and we also discussed the camera project and the implementation kickoff. It has a preliminary date of April or late April. We also discussed the administration event scheduler, which is kind of coincides with the contact management center, which is basically the call center. What I call it, the call, similar to with the call center, which HHS calls. They're kind of all one and the same, and there's a discussion that's going to be happening kind of as to how that plays forward.
No, the call center and the contact center are two separate items.
The call center, okay, that's what it was. I was kind of confused.
There's two different contact centers.
Yep. Okay, so the scheduler.
Appointment schedules,
Yep.
which is kind of.
But we can't move forward until the contact management center is done, and then they'll be moving forward with the scheduler. The kind of discussed where things are at with the new government center in terms of the technology. Also, then we had architect updates on different projects. The renewal of the Windows operating system with some potential savings. There's going to implement a Office 365 steering committee that will be meeting monthly. They're kind of reenacting that. That'll be going forward here. In the short term, we also had some discussions around the enterprise content management, which Connie May has been heading up and doing a fantastic job. There was one recommendation there that the committee approve the restart of the Office 365 Governance Committee as we work forward on those changes. Otherwise, new project requests, there was some discussion on a few, but no, just kind of having to do with the fleet key management and a few other security pieces. Then the other thing was the project portfolio, and that's the prioritization that we use for projects within the county. And one of the big discussions was moving up the sheriff's RMS discovery analyst up to a higher level of priority because the current system isn't, I don't know, what would you
Functioning
I'm trying to use
properly.
the right words for it, yeah. The functionality just isn't there for it.
There's other words we can use, but we'll use the function, and not functioning correctly.
So with that, they're looking to prioritize, make that a top priority, and that was one of the recommendations out of it. We also had some discussions about the web redesign and kind of keeping that on the radar to move forward. Otherwise, everything else is all informational. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the IT committee meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay. Back to my screen here. Our topics for next week, March 9th, workshop meetings. We currently have investment policy, the dental clinic, overview of county ditches, and the review of the Justice Center online video virtual tour is what it really is. So we'll have an opportunity to see that. Is there anything else that
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
I was wondering whether the Minnesota rural counties they have a resolution about the Minnesota clean car policy. And I was wondering whether that shouldn't be on there because by 2035, there's the government is just talking about being all electric and not having gas-operated cars. And I was wondering whether we shouldn't join that resolution to make it so that instead of the MPCA or the California car rule, become Minnesota's go-to rule, that it should go through the legislature.
Does anybody have any concerns about having that on for the workshop next week?
No, I think that's, well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wetter, are they looking at that pretty quickly? So it's a good thing for us to discuss it now?
Timely.
I would think it
Yep,
would be.
okay.
Okay.
Yep,
Is
sounds
that
good.
all right with you? Anybody else have anything else they'd like to add?
I think the ditch discussion may take up a lot of time, so.
No. Ditches? No, ditches never take up any time.
Ditches?
For Administrator Kelly, is there anything else that you think is timely that should be added to the discussions next week at the workshop?
Yeah, so we had gone back through notes and discussions on past meetings on what topics were moving forward, and I think tried to capture it and reach out to the parties involved, give them heads up that we're planning for this March 9th workshop. So I talked briefly with Mr. Hevela about investments and investment policy. Staff have had a number of meetings over the past months really regarding the dental clinic. Feel it's appropriate to give the board an update on the progress on that, as well as have, I know Karen Kleinens from Community Dental is planning to attend. We also have our folks from Flaherty and Hood that have been assisting us with the process in that, and staff would like to talk through that, as I think there's some discussion points that we should review. Ditches, of course, Matt Detchen had reached out to him based on discussion we had at a previous workshop about kind of having an overview of those systems and what projects are coming down the pipe, so to speak, and what he sees in the future. So, and then Frank has got the Justice Center video queued up and ready to go. Wanted to run that by the board before, and then I can certainly add the clean cars item. I know that's been a big topic amongst the MRC. And it's been a lot of discussion there, so I know a few counties have passed that. Had some discussion with a few of my peers, administration, and other counties that have adopted it. So I can send information on that if folks haven't seen that yet. So.
Well, I don't know what I'd do with some of my old cars. I mean,
Well,
I can't convert them to electric.
No, no.
well, think of all the sheriff's vehicles and,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Regarding the overview of ditches, if I remember correctly, we were going to ask Mr. Detchen to talk about the ones that have been reestablished and
There's a flow chart that I want him to create that has
where we are
in terms of status, what the expenses are in the account in each one of them. So how many of them had a redetermination of benefits, how many of them have fund balances right now, and so forth.
And some of the ditches that, you know, we have never even talked about, like, you know, 1, 2, 3 or whatever. So
Right.
some of those, it's good just to know all
what
of
the
our
status
systems.
of them are,
Yep.
some of them.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I do have that updated. The only thing I'm working on is estimated costs for future repairs, and then those, you know, I'm anticipating what we'll do this year, but they might be projects that roll into 2022 or the future. But I have the rest of that information for you in that Excel document. So.
All right, great.
Hey, Matt, have we flown any of the systems yet? Any of the open systems?
A few of them. Are you looking for the drone footage as well?
Well, not really in there. I just want to know when we flew it last, you know, just so I have like because keeping this chart and saying, hey, we flew it in, say it was 1999, and just so markers on that chart as to pieces. I mean, not that if you don't have it now, but down the road, I'd like to be able to have a spot in there, in that chart.
Okay. Yeah, I can get you that. I have a breakdown of when inspections occurred.
Okay.
That's one of the tabs. So.
You know, Matt, maybe having it physical inspection or virtual or
Flown or whatever you
flown inspection, however you want to put it.
Breakdown.
And you confused me with my initials up there too, so don't do that. Don't do that. Don't confuse me.
I'll change my last name.
Would you
No
please?
worries.
Thank you.
Yeah, so he's not a doctor anymore.
Does anybody else have anything regarding that? Okay. Thank you, Matt. We look forward to your wonderful presentation next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to approve a resolution.
Huh? No. Not yet. Elena, donation discussion. That was Commissioner Houston, and you were unable to meet with
Right.
the president?
We were not able to connect until today, so we're having a meeting today. So I'd like to table this until next week, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can't make a.
Oh, not next week.
Well,
Right.
we can discuss it a little bit.
Yeah.
Next week, maybe.
And send it to the board the next week.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
The following.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Back just in time. Approving resolution delegating the well, let's see, you weren't here for the workshop meetings, were you?
Yes.
You were? Okay,
just
so
wrapping
you
that
had
up.
nothing else added to
No.
that? Okay. And the Elena donation discussion is being tabled because it,
Couldn't meet until today, so.
Okay.
so then we have, a resolution delegating the statutory duties of the auditor treasurer.
So, Mr. Chair, I can speak to this. As you recall, back on the February 2nd meeting, we had adopted a very similar resolution clarifying some of the duties regarding the auditor treasurer and staff doing that. That ended up as Resolution 21-14. What is in front of you today is similar. What we omitted on the previous one was to call out the transfer of land records duties that are now being moved over to the recorder's office. So this is to officially make that move as part of the change in shifting duties from what was the Auditor Treasurer's office. We've now, in the previous 21-14, addressed the items to the Finance Director. We felt it was appropriate to make the revision relative to the positions moving to the Recorder's office. So that's the purpose of today's resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution delegating the statutory duties of the Auditor Treasurer.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Thank you. Item 4, Department Budget Review, we've already done. Set the date for the board retreat. Administrator Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. At last board meeting, we had some discussion about setting a retreat for myself and the board. Had some discussions about a person to facilitate that, and the name of Dr. Craig Waldron came up, who had worked with us both, I think, in 19 and as well as in 20 on some retreats that we had done as the board. So I did reach out to him and see his availability. Some dates that would work well for him would be Monday, March 29th, Tuesday the 30th, which was a board meeting but was canceled. Could also do the 26th. Otherwise, looking at dates on April, the week of the 19th. So wanted to, I guess the first choice for him was that week of March 29th, 30th, if possible.
Originally, I was going to be gone that week, but I will be around now. So if nobody else has any objections, the 29th or 30th would work good.
29th, Mr. Chair, is fine. Is this one day? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Hopefully.
Mr. Chair, just to quickly speak to that, and I know I said you'd meet with me and Mr. Waldron to kind of hone in on the agenda, but planning this would probably start, 9:30 or 10 in the morning. Kind of have a morning session just to talk about the board and administration working together and some of how we do that culturally and just so everybody's on the same page. And then there's a number of documents that have been developed over the last year and a half on strategic planning and various initiatives that I think it'd be good to get input from the full board, knowing we have 2 new members on that, and just talk about where we're going forward here in 21. Now's a great time to do it prior to us getting into budget in a couple months. So that's kind of a general agenda as I've been working with.
And I talked with Lee, making sure that we get those 200 and some documents out to you on probably the weekend before.
All that. Yeah, there's quite a bit there. I've been trying to...
So typically we start at like 9:30.
No, I'm just teasing.
So historically it's gone, usually we start, like you said, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and usually we're done between 2 and 2:30. Is,
Been done.
yeah.
Just
Maybe
depends.
Yeah, just depends, yeah.
On what kind of discussions we have.
Mr. Chair, Administrator Kelly, will this be at Nye Park or?
Yes, Mr. Mattice has been nice enough to hold some dates for me until we set today's date. So planning for Nye Park.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we set a retreat on Monday, the 29th, starting at 9:30 a.m.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Again, if there's something else that you want to have discussed, please get it to us quickly so that we can get whatever information we need together. If myself or Administrator Kelly doesn't hear from anybody by the end of this week, then we'll assume that what we had talked about will be set, and we'll go from there. All right. And I think that's it. So, No, we got, refer to the Committee of the Whole, March 11th or 12th for the WIC grant discussion.
So kind of following up, Health and Human Services meeting, the most recent one, there was discussion about having a committee of the whole, and I don't know that a date was set at that meeting, so it made it on today's agenda.
Yeah, we left it open-ended too.
Yeah,
So if it's, I wanted to move it forward in case there needed to be a meeting set. If it's too soon, we can certainly move it on.
No, there's a time crunch on this one.
That was my understanding, hence bringing it forward.
Yeah, it was,
Do you want to go with like, because we have EDA at 10.
yeah,
Correct.
I kind of have 3 things on Thursday and 2 on Friday, but I would be available at like 10:45 on Friday before my 12:15 meeting.
We can do, or whatever you do, 10:30 too tight or 10, we can go 10:45.
Well,
if you want.
I just need to get from the law enforcement center to here.
Okay.
So
so what date was this?
it
Friday
would
the
be
12th.
Friday the 12th.
Okay, all right. I was hoping it wasn't 19th.
If 10:45 works, that would give me that 15 minutes to get here from my last meeting.
10:45?
That work for you?
Here's so, yes.
Jamie's.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole to discuss the WIC program at 10:45 on March 12th a.m.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Husum. March 12th at 10, what was it?
45.
10:45. Not 10:46, 10:45, right? All right. Any discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay. And advisory committee, advisory board updates. Administrator Kelly.
Sure, I can start out. A couple things from last week. Had the opportunity to attend the CMRP Framework 2030 session, talking through the various aspects of their planning that they'd put together, and participated in a lot of breakout groups on that info. Continuing to follow at the federal level if something's going to come out of this for state and local governments regarding this most recent COVID-related stimulus. It sounds from the discussion I had gotten from AMC that it has cleared it through the House. Will it get revised in the Senate? They're thinking it probably will, and it may shift the scope of which counties and cities may be able to use these funds. So I don't want to put a ton of stock into it, but just to say that we're continuing to monitor it. So quite a few discussions last week with Elizabeth Carls, our new person, getting up to speed, building connections with the City of Buffalo and talking about the EDA, getting some of the materials prepared for that next meeting here coming up in March 11th. Had kind of an interesting call from Becker County as well. Myself and Scott Weiland met with them for a little bit. They're considering looking at an ERP system, so we're kind of asking about our experience about it. So felt we should pay it forward since we've been doing similar things with St. Croix County in Wisconsin on this. So kind of fun to talk through that. But so a few things.
Okay. Commissioner Wetter?
I had no committee meetings. Nothing to report.
Commissioner Vetch?
So last week on Thursday, Central Mississippi Regional Planning Partnership met in a workshop to do the second round of engagement as a group. Very good discussions.
And also to bring up some of the new members up to speed too.
Yep, it was an educational piece as well for some of our, we had a good number of new members with the previous election. So also then on Monday, I had a meeting, or yesterday, with the Department of Revenue Commissioner, Commissioner Doughty, who's new into the position. We had some discussions about the transmission line change on the state assessed properties, going from a individualized city rate to a county rate, and the shifting of them away from the city's capacity, and educating the Department of Revenue a little bit on what that would mean to some of the municipalities in Wright County, not to mention across the state, We're doing some more research on it to determine the scope of which around the state that people are using the methodology that we've been using here in Wright County versus that of the other counties in the state. We do know that there is a good number of them that have been doing it the way we have. The Department of Revenue's stance was that this was a move to make all counties linear in using the same methodology, and that their methodology is based more on what the language is in the statute. So this is kind of more of a compliance thing that they're saying, but it was more of a question because the language in the law has not changed at all. It's been the same language for decades. So it's kind of a surprising when you have a good number of, 8, 10, 12 counties or more potentially that are using one methodology and a bunch of other ones using a different methodology, and all of a sudden the Department of Revenue is going to take a hard line and drive it into one direction. And that direction is changing the tax capacities or changing the tax rates for a lot of residents in their cities. So residents could see a potential increase in their city taxes if things go forward. So we're asking them, if nothing else, to put a hold on this change for 1 to 2 years so we can get a better understanding of it and look at maybe possible legislative changes that may be needed to prevent such action.
Did it?
That's it.
Anything else?
No, I'll leave it at that. I could talk about a lot of things, but
I was at the City of Otsego and City of St. Michael council meetings last week, Monday, Tuesday, just for some discussions about where the county's at, what are some of the things we're planning for the future, and also that I'll warn them that I will be in front of them at some point in the future regarding the county's EDA and our goals with that. And then, yes, regarding the Central Minnesota, Mississippi Regional Planning, whatever we want to call it, that really long one name.
Yeah.
I believe that all the commissioners were sent the link to the round 2 of information gathering, and hopefully you have all had an opportunity to fill those out. If not, please get that done. And also on that website is just some incredible information that you can look at that shows that all of our communities aren't going to have big box stores. Some realistic information. So I thought it was interesting in there.
I'll kind of just show these guys so they see what they're looking for. It's a really good statistics chart. Kind of just a lot of fact-finding information for the region. So if you nerd out with numbers, this is it's kind of fun.
Commissioner Newsom.
Yeah, Commissioner Ketchmark and I were at the safety meeting last week, and they talked about a number of things. We reviewed 3 incidents that had happened the previous month, and the review work plan, the OSHA logs are completed, and with safety inspections, we're very high in our compliance, over about 90%. They were having a kind of a mass vaccine clinic at the Dome in St. Michael last week, and where they gave 1,200 doses of the vaccine. So I haven't checked back to see how it went, but anyway, that was kind of interesting. We talked a lot about foot protection plans, and we're working with parks. So on some of the, what is the county? I mean, we provide footwear for some of our departments, but they're looking into footwear that can, for freeze and thaw kind of conditions, and so more to come on that. And I had to leave about 5 minutes early to go to another meeting, so I don't know what I missed the last few minutes or so.
Were you done or?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I mean,
No, that was it. There was the 3 events that were reviewed, and with the data given and the incidents, there wasn't really any recommendations that could be made out of
Right,
that to,
yep.
to cease and desist that in the future. And that was it.
Did it?
Got it?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a solar meeting last week, solar group meeting with Commissioner Vetch and others from the industry and the communities, and very interesting, weighing in on different sides of the issue, and we're looking forward to the next meeting, looking over a proposal basically by the solar industry on going forward, and then we'll review that and go from there. Had a planning commission meeting, very lengthy. Some of the things got resolved, some of the things are going to be dealt with in the field trip today. 3 site inspections around the county. The fair board met. Everybody's always interested in that, so I made sure I took copious notes on the fair now. So reports from the fair board, because just remember, I'm a visitor, a member of the Wright County Ag Society, non-voting member. So I show up and listen, and their statement is that they are planning on having a fair this year.
And it will be the 150th?
Yep.
Yep.
You know, the rest I'm just going to attach to whoever says it, because I'm safe saying this, and and beyond that, it should have been 150 last year, but they
Right.
didn't have it, so yeah, I guess whenever it happens, it's 150.
Commissioner Ketchmark, did it go 4 hours on the planning commission meeting, or?
I think it was scheduled that, it started, I think it was about 3.5, Commissioner Vetch, on that.
Just because I've had a lot of residents that have had questions about the frequency of them because of the length of them, and not necessarily knowing when your item will come up, and so.
There is that issue, and then once again, people wanted to talk about an alternative meeting time, because apparently before COVID, they had some evening meetings. Well,
They were all evening meetings.
so if you're gonna start at 7, then are we gonna go till 11:30 and half hour
they're gone to
commute
midnight,
home? And so there's a few different things. I guess they may have to look at reducing the agenda in some of these options, because it does get lengthy, but you never know for sure. There's some that are contested that you don't think will be, and vice versa. And we had that last week with 5 things. I could have never imagined, nobody else really did either, on some of the feedback and discussion you'll get on some of these issues. So on paper, may look long, and it's maybe not going to be, so it's hard to tell.
Yep.
Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, have they talked about, like we have for Health and Human Services meetings, we have 2 set, per month, but then we normally cancel the second one because we've taken care of the business. So unless there's something that we need to address at that time, then we go ahead with it. So I don't know if that's something that they can look at, because those meetings, we've been here till midnight with some of those planning meetings, so.
And then it's basically a living agenda where it comes out one version, and then people take it off because they didn't get something they needed and they want to postpone it. So then you're left with maybe half of what you planned on.
Right.
So I don't know the right answer to it, but that's all I have.
Yeah, just a thought.
Okay. Mr. Penske, I know I got an email from you. We do not have an open forum meeting here at all. So if you wanted to get on the next board meeting, which would be March
16th.
March
16th would be the next.
March 16th. Contact Mr. Kelly over there, and he'll get you set up, and whatever else is required. All right, nothing else come before the board. We are adjourned at 10:43.